So what the heck is the 4th Era 209 mod list anyway? So it occurs to me, after making 6 videos about the topic, with the tag 4th Era 209 mod list, I haven't been so forthcoming in just what I mean when I say that. So this is an intro of sorts to the mod list I've already made 6 videos about. Disclaimer, it is not a collection or a Wabbajack, and I have no intention of making it one. That's because I'm on 1.5.97 and have quite a few mods that are no longer available in the form that I play them. That's why my videos are curating the mods that are available. Anyway, if you've been on my channel for any length of time, you may have noticed I really like making Let's Plays.
Bear with me a moment, I need to talk about the background for this mod list, and that is through the lens of my Let's Plays.
But they're not like drop a full-length VOD into the upload video bin, make one thumbnail, minimal description, and just facelessly play through whatever. Then when I upload another one, exactly one day later, it's another 30 minutes of me playing, just slap a big 2 on the thumbnail and keep doing that forever. No way. I wrote 2.5 novels. I've read about 500 books, been playing video games since 1990. So that's not gonna fly. I have some creativity. It's more like I play for 4 to 8 hours, I cut down every second of gameplay that I deem to be boring, establish a storyline and consistent characters, with them all interacting and growing as people, with the magic of the Proteus mod. I mod in a way for there to be a persistent world viewed at from many angles. It's meant to be viewed as like a weekly show, kind of like a 90s action cartoon. Each episode is mostly self-contained, and I use enough flashbacks to get across what is actually going on.
Last time.
While it's hot, metal is malleable.
Previously.
You see, I am Sanguine, Daedric Prince of Debauchery.
Last time.
I want you to beat your previous time.
I must have run through that ancient training ground full of illusory baddies 100 times. Privateer's Hold has been like that for 1,000 years at least. My father would know. He's been around to see it. I do still think to myself my mum probably wouldn't have wanted this. She wanted me to have the normal life of a court lady, unlike her and my dad, who met on a battlefield between Wayrest and Daggerfall.
The point is, I'm playing in this mod list I created called the 4th Era 209 mod list. I'm not going to go into the lore of the Elder Scrolls here, just that each era measures a huge cosmic shift of some kind. The end of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion was the end of the 3rd era. 209 is the year I'm currently playing in. Just like any Dragonborn's journey, the story started on 17th of Last Seed, which is August for us regular people, in the 4th era of Tamriel, the year 201. My first arc, named Back in Time, don't worry about the name, and yes, I did stop and watch the whole trailer while screen recording it, the music still gets me every time, spanned from 201 to 202, encompassing the Civil War, the Thieves Guild questline, the start of the main quest up to when you become the Dragonborn, and a ton of odds and ends. Someday I'm going to do a full retrospective and commentary of that arc. So anyway, at the end of Back in Time, the Dragonborn retired from adventuring to raise a family. She had 2 sons, Damien and Fenrir, babies at this point in time, and an adopted daughter, Runa Fairshield. I decided to do a time skip of 7 years to give them a chance to grow up. It allowed me to play the 3 kids as characters in their own right. In the time skip, I also redid my mod list and basically started from scratch, moving to another segment of play with newly established versions of the characters. But of course, the established characters got their old abilities back, maybe backslid a bit because of the time of relative peace. I say peace, it probably would have been smarter not to have my Dragonborn established until 209, but I find this outcome kind of funny. While Alduin is not vanquished, it's kind of a running joke, but also a cool thing about Bethesda games that you don't have a time limit on the main quest other than The Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. I'm in a very small part retreading things I did when I played Skyrim before filling out the middle points. On the same note, on my first playthrough in 2012, there was a bug that prevented Dragon Soul absorption from working, which I'm pretty sure was fixed in the unofficial patch. But I was one of those guys who played through the entire game before modding it at all. So I played through the entire game without shouts and souls before I advanced past the end of the quest, Dragon Rising. I was about level 81 when I finally killed Alduin. Needless to say, it was incredibly easy.
So I decided I would do this as kind of an homage on my Dragonborn today, Distana, but the explanation is she's kind of just shirking her duties as Dragonborn. but then actually also Alduin not being that much of a threat until some not yet mentioned event happens.
So I asked myself, in the wake of a successful war being able to chart their own destinies, what would Skyrim do between 202 and 209? This is a hot take, but I did decide at some point Skyrim would be better off without being part of the Empire. You can debate this endlessly, and people are still debating this online to this day. But the Elder Scrolls games have been saying this since Morrowind. Talos' avatar says the Empire is old and in decline, and maybe it could die out and we would be better off for it. So, how could Skyrim be better off? Well, if you look at the gameplay of Skyrim, do you realize how many ancient treasures and weapons and armor are buried in tombs? How much history there's been? How many mighty warriors live here? Especially with hundreds of orphans of war not being pushed into banditry, and I'll talk about that. And all the Daedric artifacts are concentrated in Skyrim right now. I actually have an explanation for that. It happens in every TES game. But no, I mean an actual in-world explanation for it, because the Daedric princes can sense changes in the wind. They are, after all, mostly descended from the primordial spirit of chaos, Padme. What I propose the Daedra do in every game is they ensure their artifacts make their way to ground zero of the next big cosmic shift, because they all want to be more revered, more worshipped. They want to be, in short, on top in the next era. The Daedra are vying for power when they shift their artifacts into the next game's focal region. That could actually probably be a video unto itself. Back to the topic. One of the biggest catalysts of Skyrim's improvement between 202 and 209 I mentioned earlier is the orphans of Civil War, not being pushed into crime and having a home. So for a large part, you can thank this man, Circuit. I'm not going to go into his story here, suffice to say he's a warrior with a heart of gold who established Dragonkeep, a castle orphanage for the forgotten children.
The civil war in Skyrim was hard on us all, regardless of what side you were on. But I want you to take a good look at yourself. You might be out of a home, or a job. You might have lost those close to you, but you still have your life, and that means we can rebuild. We can put this awful experience behind us. Please excuse me. My name is Circuit, former Legionnaire. I had a dream recently. All the orphans and refugees having a place to call home and begin that rebuilding. So my friends and I started to rebuild Dragonkeep, an old, dilapidated castle on a hill west of Whiterun. It's not much, but in time I would like it to grow to become a school and boarding house for those lost children. If you've got soldiering experience, come on by, and we can give you a new beginning. And if not, bring what skills you have, and we can put you to work. Join us, won't you? Let's work together toward a brighter future for all of us in Skyrim.
Hadvar, Ralof, Rika, all of whom survived the Civil War, by the way. Hadvar and Rika are thought missing in action by the Legion. You know, the one in Cyrodiil. And Circuit run it as a boarding school. There were more additions as teachers later. The graduates pay back their tuition by becoming adventurers and plumbing the infinite dungeons in Skyrim. Dragonkeep also offers courses and jobs for adults. Take note that Circuit is not the Dragonborn, Dastana is. She did have a role to play in this as well, as both a massive donator and a symbol, kind of like a thiefy version of All Might, with boobs. So now in 209, this is one reason there are so many more people in Skyrim than the base game. It's safe here. There's wealth to go around. There are more civilians because it's safe, and there are more warriors because there's tons of work to go around. This is why Alduin is not a threat. Every time he resurrects a dragon, like frickin' World of Warcraft, 100 adventurers come out of the woodwork and destroy them. Even if the Dragonborn's not present to absorb their souls, they just get bona fide, and Alduin's got to go back and resurrect them again. It's not much, but it's honest work. It's not honest, but it's much work. Speaking of which, what do you think Balgruuf, Ulfric, and the lot did with this shift in the culture? They did the smart thing and decided to tax adventurers. They also used the revenue to build homes and expand their holds, as seen in these 3 videos, to rebuild old towns destroyed between the time of TES-1 Arena and TES-5 Skyrim, as seen in the New Towns video. You know, all the random forts that used to be towns back in the day. I do also want to mention where all the new civilians and warriors are coming from, besides just people growing up, that is. That's one reason I have teens. I also have adults. But where else are they coming from? Well, for one, Morrowind/Solstheim. That's established in lore. We know the Red Year made a lot of refugees. And not everybody in Morrowind is a Dark Elf. Also, Cyrodiil. 3 things are going on in Cyrodiil. Now this isn't canon lore, this is lore to my channel. The Thalmor are cracking down. B, the Elder Council has been infighting, which has been mentioned, and which is foreshadowing to the Dark Brotherhood questline, coming up in 210. And just so you know, I plan on continuing to use the mods that I have in this 209 mod list, even in 210. Finally, C, the Legion has been impressing bandits into Legion service to replenish their numbers, because they are losing some wars. This means less bandits for Cyrodiil. Also foreshadowing for later, this is actually foreshadowing for Rigmor of Cyrodiil way later. But this also means bandits are largely either in the Legion or they're fleeing Cyrodiil into Skyrim, since everybody outside Skyrim sees it as a lawless wasteland, which is now far from the case. I mean, to some degree it is the case because the different holds govern themselves and they don't have overarching law. It made sense when you would go between counties in Oblivion and a guard would run up to you and be like, "Hey, stop right there, criminal scum," because they generally have like one unified police force. But in Skyrim, it's hold by hold, which is actually kind of cool, especially if you have mods for crime decay. And 3, from High Rock. 2 things here. Everything is really shitty and people are migrating. This is the seeds for Beyond Reach. And B, the aforementioned invasion by the Akaviri inflicted heavy losses. This turned into heavy taxes and just general misery for people. So you've got people looking for somewhere to escape to. So that covers why and how Whiterun, Markarth, Windhelm, Solitude, Riften, and all the small towns getting massive overhauls because of all the money and all the new people. And also why there are now 30 more new towns here in Skyrim. And why there are potentially infinite number of random people in Skyrim. Also, they come and go.
But what about the gameplay video? Well, maybe I shouldn't belabor the point, since I don't think most of you actually went and watched that one.
Seriously, go watch it. It's pretty cool. But honestly, gameplay, in quotes, doesn't have the same sense of progression as the others do. I just took what I thought was cool. I wanted to paraglide, so I did paragliders. I wanted to have spears and ultra great swords, unarmed combat, climbing, using different characters in the same world, so I did all that. Basically, Skyrim is an engine now, and you can steal stuff from other games and put it in Skyrim. And you can also steal entire other games, look at Kuldahar and Diablo 1, etc. So I've talked about all the videos I've made, but I need to make a note on all the future additions to this collection of 4th era 209 mod list videos. My current plan is to have videos for magic, equipment, followers, and monsters/foes. And I'll talk about each of these a little bit. Don't at me if I decide to do more videos about it in the future that I didn't talk about here. The principles are here. You know, the idea of Skyrim was small and run down and kind of shitty in 201 and in decline, and then they get attacked by a dragon. And some good stuff happens, and a few years later, Skyrim is doing really well, and I've modded to make it seem like that. You know, I could have led with that statement. Anyway, Magic, I definitely had the same mentality as the cities and population videos. I had a number of spells available in 202, which is to say, a metric butt ton, but I decided I was not going to seek out spells my characters wouldn't be aware of. Also, and you'll see this with the equipment video too, I have so many spells added by mods, not even I know what they all are. Also equipment. This is by design, actually. It's intentionally limiting my ability to metagame and seek out the specific spells that might make my characters unbalanced. But it's also a way of curating uncertainty. That is, I don't know what I'm going to see in game. The same way that stuff like faction warfare just randomly has encounters that cannot possibly be predicted. And ideas like mod salad, a bunch of mods combining and doing things that I never would have anticipated. And I also intentionally progressed Magic from game start to 209. The Elemental Bolt line of spells, for example, from Arcane Accessories Creation Club entry, was something nobody had at the beginning, but now it's become more widespread. I would learn things like Fireball at the beginning, base game spells. My explanation is it just recently got developed by intrepid mages and has since grown wild in popularity. There are actually quite a few spells, and enchantments for that matter, available in standard in 220 that either don't exist in 209 or aren't widespread. Take, for example, the Cushion Boots enchantment that negates fall damage. I decided that was not something I was going to seek out because mitigating fall damage is something that I feel like you should have to worry about in early game. It definitely exists in the world, I just haven't seen a pair of boots that have it yet. My explanation is nobody's developed it yet. Also, as far as spells go, levitation, flight spells, mark and recall, and teleportation. Almost nobody knows these in 209, and certainly not at game start, because they were previously outlawed by the Empire. During Oblivion, due to game limitations. Some of that stuff is going to come back, though, in the years to come. This is like the advancement of science, or I guess the rediscovering of lost knowledge. I want to share 2 good instances of this in anime. First of all, Frieren, who has lived for hundreds of years, fought in a demon war. Afterward, she reverse engineered one of the demon's spells. During the course of the demon war, he got turned to stone, and then 100 years later or so, his seal breaks. Come to find out that the spell that she got from him was taken by humans and developed into what is now a standard spell. It used to be a human killing spell that was very advanced, and now it is something that most mages learn. That, in my opinion, is very cool. And I'm trying to curate the same kind of thing in my game. Another example is Dragon Ball Z. When Super Saiyan was first teased, it was talked about by Vegeta as an ancient prophecy, like a legend. Akira Toriyama has this way of writing that really subverts your expectations. So some people would have had it so it's like, only Goku can go Super Saiyan. But in the next arc, like 20 episodes out of the Namek arc, you've got this future kid who shows up and can go Super Saiyan. And then Vegeta shows up and he can also go Super Saiyan. Anyway, the point is, with 4 Super Saiyans, counting Gohan, Goku's son, they set to work on developing a new level of Super Saiyan. It's like the progression of science, which, again, I find very cool.
Oh yeah, in raw power, it can't be beat. But the amount of concentrated energy causes an extreme expansion in mass. The body can't compensate. And while you'll see a 50% power increase, you'll see a 75% decrease in speed and mobility.
All this is to say, magic should advance over time. Especially in a technologically backwards world like Nirn, you should have people developing new spells. And that is something I've, once again, curated between 202 and 209. And more to come before 220. And also I want to say, regionally, people might know different spells. Like, for example, people from High Rock, like Rohisa, have access to learn Mark and Recall just because TES2's dungeon design was insidious, and she would have grown up doing High Rock dungeons, which I'm taking at face value. I imagine 4th era High Rock would have had those blocky, procedurally generated insane dungeons because, it's canonical. Where would they have gone? They definitely exist. Rohisa actually brought this up when she adventured with Runa.
Don't forget to cast your mark spell or scroll.
What is that?
So you can quickly escape the dungeon after it's finished.
Huh. In Skyrim, they always build in emergency exits. Also conveniently used as a loop back for adventurers. See? That's probably it. Small dungeon.
That's interesting. I'll play it your way.
In Skyrim, there are always loopbacks, which I took to be built-in emergency exits. See, it, like most parts of game design, are actually explainable. What if an ancient Nord got locked in a tomb with a bunch of Draugr? They would want a way to get out. Largely, this is the same with equipment. I had so many equipment sets and put them in Gear Spreader, which I will talk about in my actual video about gear, and if I get it on the road, I'm happy, but I don't just give it to myself. I prefer to get this stuff organically. There are so many lost artifacts in the bowels of Skyrim, who knows what's going to pop up. And Followers doesn't really need its own explanation for this purpose. I add the Followers I think are cool. Though unlike a game that is centered on playing in 4th era 201 only, age is a consideration. Like Gore, who is probably in his early 20s by the mod, is only about to show up right after the Stolen Years 24 in year 209. Lucian isn't even in Skyrim yet in 209. As far as I have planned, he doesn't show up until 220, when he's one of Kentira's friends. Monsters is kinda like equipment in Magic, but I do have a progression planned. At game start, I decided monsters would be entirely lore friendly, but also including things that aren't natively in Skyrim the game, like minotaurs and ogres, but most certainly exist in the world. See The Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall, 3 Morrowind, and 4 Oblivion. Obviously Morrowind has a lot of weird stuff that aren't going to come to Skyrim, but they can appear in Solstheim. In the 209 series, The Stolen Years, I am planning on a huge, let's call it an occurrence, that I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, that really changes what monsters appear in Skyrim. This is why there are reasonable monsters in 202, with a few more things that are lore adjacent like Jills and Mimics in 209, and in 220 there are things from The Witcher, Monster Hunter, classical mythology, like cockatrices.
Oh wow, I went on about this for a long time. Notice my new blinds that I installed so you won't be blinded by my shot behind me? Maybe I can stream now, who knows? I do still kind of hate streaming. And I think that's all I had to say about that. Check out my big playlist if you like some of the visuals from this video, or you like the visuals from my other 4th Arrow 209 videos. You know, a lot of thought went into curating these mods, but it's really for me. I mean, I'm just sharing it because it's fun. But you know, like and subscribe. Check out my Discord if you feel like it. I know you're already in like 50 Discords. What's one more? Anyway, so long. Thanks for watching.